Hey, dolls and dons, get ready to take on the world one episode at a time with the Baby Doll Show podcast. Let's rep your brand, your passion, lifestyle, and creativity like never before on the Baby Doll Show with Baby Doll.
Dons, today I have Charmaine Parker. She is a life insurance agent with Primerica. And today we're just going to explore the journey and have some conversations on how we can better adapt our lives to be secure for our families and for ourselves. So how's your week been going?
It's been actually going well. Lots of appointments, lots of people wanting to find out what's going on over here in Primerica, and why are we moving through the Black community so fast?
Primerica has been around for quite some time, and I noticed that they had a lot of models. They don't just do insurance. It seems that they have some other platforms that they have available for the community as well.
Absolutely. So what the company chose to do was partner with some of the largest brokerage companies in North America to kind of tie in some other entities that their clients could take advantage of, such as home and car insurance. We actually partner with the number one brokerage company, Answer Financial in North America, which allows our clients to have the best of the best and make sure they're making the best decision that they can versus, just in-state and in-home things. We're national. We also partner with Vivid Home Security, and we also partner with a couple of mortgage company assistance programs. So we're all around well-rounded in financials and, just making sure that we're up in what's going on now in the world.
Awesome. Now, how does that work? Is that a very productive field to be into financially in the life insurance field?
Absolutely. Actually, if you do your research on financial industry, it's actually the richest industry in the world. It's the leading industry in the world. It's also the only non-regulated industry in the world. So
I didn't know that. So it's non-regulated?
The only one. So with that being said, with COVID came, we are the only industry that didn't take a hit. No circumstances. You didn't get a letter in the mail saying if you crashed your car that they were going to replace it for you. You definitely didn't get a letter in the mail saying if COVID took you out that they were going to pay for your funeral, take care of your family afterwards. Don't worry about missing that insurance payment and get that.
No.
So with that being said, a lot of people didn't understand that when COVID came around, it really opened our eyes to what is really going on out here. And if you pay attention, they shut the world down all the way from beauty and barber salons to professional sport. Yes. But the world of insurance kept going.
Right.
And so we were granted that through the government. A lot of people don't know insurance bailed the world out of the Great Depression. And with return, the government gave the insurance industry non-regulation.
Now that is good food for thought. That is something that I absolutely didn't know. And that makes me feel that, when we're looking for employment, that's an amazing field to be in. I always think about medical because they can't shut their doors. They have to always keep things open because that's just something that they have to do. But I never considered insurance to be that as well. So from an employment standpoint, that would be something that people should be like, hey.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because, Forbes actually rates us as the number one employment for women since 2022. Yeah, so we have lots of Forbes ratings where you can go check us out and see what's going on with this company. You can't raise your hand to get on Forbes. They come find you, right?
Exactly. Right. You can't pay them off.
You definitely can't do that. So, it's certain things when you're doing your research on things like this, you got to really go with the trusted sources. So yes. A lot of people don't know Primerica is publicly traded. We're one of the, yes. So we trade higher than most of the big brands such as Nike and Best Buy. You can go look us up. I think we closed at about $150 a share last night.
Wow. I'm going to have to follow that because when I went on the Primerica site, that's when I saw the different platforms. And then there were 3 areas that you all had populated via Forbes for 2022. So I was quite impressed with that.
Absolutely. And like I said, with COVID coming around, it really opened our eyes to what is going on. And, with insurance, a lot of people didn't know that, a lot of people that died during this time in this pandemic, they didn't get insurance payment. Families didn't get paid out. Afterwards, people that made it through and lived, if you haven't done your due diligence and looked back at your insurance, a lot of companies cut your coverage, so it's an exchange. Insurance world is an exchange of risk. And COVID brought about a situation where the risk just went a little higher. And And, and something when we don't understand what we should understand when we're signing off on such things, such as the biggest investment you're going to ever make in your life, and that is your life insurance. You don't understand that fine print, then you become one of the families that were devastated in these times that pay their insurance faithfully, looking for these payouts for when these things happen to their family, but fine print took away from the bold print.
You're saying that just really kind of like set tingles to me, because I so frequently speak to people about reading the fine print and not always being so open to just signing things and not being receptive to listening to everything when we present something to them, because sometimes we don't think things are important, but we're supposed to really make some informed decisions, right? And we should know what we're signing, and we should know how things work, because we're so quick. We don't want to invest in ourselves, period, which is something that as a society we need to better deal with.
That's just a whole nother topic, a whole nother show topic within itself. But yes, like you touched on that is so important right now, with people having that understanding what you're signing your John Hancock on. I just wanted to take a touch back. If you think about it, our families in the Black community were moved by our elders, grandma, great grandma. They set the tones in the family. They pass down the generations, right? It becomes a respect thing that you just, some people just can't break. Where as we get older, as we mature, we learn that, when you know better, you do better.
Exactly.
So, and we take a look at it, and we have to say, our grandparents, they weren't, per se stupid or anything like that. They were just uneducated. And so when they were uneducated, they were able to put things in front of them that made sense. And, such as whole life insurance. Whole life insurance has been tearing the Black community down for generations, and we're still passing it down because grandma said so, right? It's the thing, they sold it to our grandparents on the borrowing factor.
Right.
Borrowing factor. Here we go. Let's go with the word borrow. When you borrow something, what is that?
You need to pay it back.
It's a loan. Automatic loan that you got. When you get a loan, what you got to do with that? You got to pay that back with interest.
Yes.
And so what happens is they've convinced our people for years, put your money in our bank. And when you need it, you must convince us that you qualify for it first off. And when we do qualify for it, you must pay it back with interest. So if they had explained that to our ancestors as they have tried to explain to us now, and we're just not going, we're just not going. But back then it sounded good. It sounded good because, they saw it as a way to get out. If you think about last couple of years, as our grandparents lived, big mamas didn't work. House was paid for. They fed the block. Like, you just didn't see them struggle.
Right.
But when they passed away, correct me if I'm wrong, were we not trying to figure out how to bury them?
And still trying to figure out. So many families
we watched
are still
the insurance man come pick up that money from Big Mama every month. Who didn't see that? I know
I saw it. I just ran into she's old, old, but she was the agent for my great grandmother. She still, picks up payments and stuff, but I totally remember that. And I so didn't understand because I never really saw a delinquent notice or anything in our house. To my understanding, we were okay, from a bill standpoint. So I really didn't understand that when it was time for them to be buried and things like that, why the services were so mediocre, and all of the robbing Peter to pay Paul that happened on some of those
conversations behind the family text messages, who got what on what,
Yeah.
But grandma had it taken care of. Great grandma had it taken care of, right? You watched her live this peaceful life towards the end. Well, that's because she was convinced to go borrow this money, her money. Matter of fact, because didn't nobody help her pay her premium, right? She paid her premium on her own. So who was she borrowing from?
Right.
She borrowed from herself.
Right.
So that's the thing. So they sold our grandparents and great grandparents on two concepts. You have a death benefit and you have this savings plan here that, as it accrues interest and it'll go over the years, when you get to that retirement stage, you can go borrow that money and pay off the last little of the house and do all those little things that we saw them do to live peacefully. But what they didn't say is if you don't pay that money back, then when you pass away and your beneficiary comes looking for the death benefit, they're going to remind the beneficiary that Big Mama borrowed her savings account, but she didn't pay it back. And so we need that money back plus the interest rate. And now we're going to subtract that amount from the death benefit. And if there's anything left, here's your check. Do you really think that if our grandparents were explained to them that that's how this works, that they would have invested in this all their life to die and leave their families in poverty?
Absolutely. I know that they wouldn't do it. I know my grandparents wouldn't, because...
So they sold our people on what sounded good. Back then, money sounded good. Anything to get ahead sounded good. But what they did was they sold whole life insurance in the South and in the poor white farmer communities. They were considered a minority back then also. And they sold term insurance to the white people up north. And they showed them how to purchase their wealth in advance. They showed them how to create generational wealth. While you keep that divide going, you have this side getting ahead and you have this side always going to be behind. They're always going to be behind. So while we're doing our due diligence by making sure, hey, we have life insurance because that's what they're preaching. What did you really have? Because again, even though we're educated, they weren't that uneducated that if you would explain that to them, that that's how that was going to work, that they were going to pay into that their whole life and convince their whole family, go do what grandma did.
Exactly.
And so what's happening now is we're, as a generation in our community, we're actually asking questions. We got questions and the answers just don't add up, right? The math is not mathing with this. Right. So now at this point, we have to take a stand, and that's where Primerica comes in. Primerica showed us what is going on and why the other communities are getting ahead and we are dying and leaving our families in poverty. When they came into our homes, and they sit down with our families, they convince us, get about $25,000, $50,000 of life insurance, make sure nobody goes into debt burying you. Sounds good. Sounds like they're straightforward. But when they go sit in other communities' homes, they sit down and they want to know, husband, what's going to happen if you don't make it home? Is your paycheck still going to come in this household for your wife? Minimum 5-10 years. Single parents. You got 4 or 5 kids running around here. What is going to happen to your babies if you pass away? Do you have anything coming in that will give them the same quality of life that you fight for while you're here?
Right.
They don't have those conversations with us. That's why we're in the positions we're in. When our people die, we're arguing over who's going to pay for school stuff next year for the 4 kids. Who's going to buy the shoes? We're downsizing from the nice homes that we lived in to apartments and, all of the landslide things that happen in our lives, but they're not happening in other communities because it's 2 different conversations being held. So what happens is as we become educated, we have to pass the education along to our people to catch up. And also we have to, as a people, be open to listen to each other. That's the problem. That's the only reason we can't get ahead. We won't listen to each other, So when we get to that point where we understand that we are the educated one, unfortunately, we respect our elders, respect them for everything they did, they've shown, and what they brought us to this far. But we need to take over now, and we need to exchange that same information and teach our elders what we've learned. And we'll have a meeting of the minds in the middle where we're all one generation, coming together to get back on track. We're the only ones off track.
Right. Yes, because we're just not the action takers that we should be.
I tell people we've taken GoFundMe to a whole nother level where they probably just gonna get rid of that thing. It just is probably just our community. Just our community alone. And that's the thing about it, for it to be pinpointed like that and be able to factually be true, that's not cool. Yes. You don't see Mexicans out there having taco sales to bury their families. You don't see Asians having fried rice sales to bury their families. Right. Why are we the ones out here having fish fries and they've graduated to crab boils? I mean, the embarrassment of it all, but it's just from the lack of knowledge and the lack of wanting to take in the knowledge.
Right. And I don't know, do you feel that maybe it needs to start, for us, because the parents are younger, now, and things like that? Do you feel like it needs to start there to just as part of the finances when, we learn how to pay our bills and just part of that menu of services as an adult or a parent to foster that to be part of our lifestyle. Just like car insurance. If you're going to drive, you need car insurance. If you have a living existence, insurance needs to be a conversation in our household. I even know I don't see it on Primerica, but I'm an advocate of renter's insurance. A lot of people, don't have that. Homeowners, a lot of times it's required.
But that too.
Oh, really? No, I didn't see that.
Answer Financial is our brokerage company that handles all of that, from car insurance to homeowners insurance to business insurance, renters insurance, all of the insurances above. And so we, like I said, now as Primerica agents, we are not required to have the background in it. And that's why we're brokers. So we partner with all of the number one companies, not number 2, 3, 4. We partner with the number one companies in all of North America to give our clients the best financial situation that they can be in to address any aspect they have going on in their life.
Oh, now that's amazing. So they've really tied up the industry because those insurance is just so important. I promise I was not an advocate. I was one of those statistics that didn't take it seriously and didn't make it a part of my building structure. I think we have to get past thinking it's not going to happen to me, because with COVID and things like that, it can happen to us and there'd be absolutely nothing wrong with us for so many years. And just, somewhere a 20-year-old, a 30-year-old, even, in the clubs, because I don't know if, in our area, there are clubs, people have been in clubs and gotten sick, from owners and things like that. And people have expired from that. Who would have thought a night of pleasure would have turned into a night of no more pleasure?
That's right. And another big thing is our children not being insured.
Yes.
That's a big thing going on. I don't understand why people don't think children die too, but I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. They're dying in numbers around here, so I can't speak for other cities, but in my city alone, it's just a necessity. It shouldn't be looked at as a bill. It's a requirement. Right. And unfortunately, we're actually conditioned to think this way. If you think about it, the government it's mandatory for us to have car insurance. It's mandatory for us to have car insurance, but think about this. It's mandatory for us to have insurance on a piece of metal, but it's not mandatory for us to have liability or full coverage on the man or woman that's driving it. You can replace the car if it crashes, but you can't replace the human being that's driving it to the people that depend on their money. You can't replace that. So the conditioning is wrong and set up the way it's set up for us to not think it's important. Again, for us to not think it's important, put money into something that is important, but not as important, which keeps us in a position where we're just going to keep dying in poverty. Our money is going towards things that don't matter.
Absolutely. We wearing it, we sharing it.
we doing everything under the sun. We walking on it, we eating it, we doing everything with our money. But here's my question to most people, and this is what really throws people off. When's your birthday? And I'm asking this question to you. When's your birthday?
June 6th.
June 6th. Just as quick as you said that. When's your death date?
It could be any day.
At that part. And with that being said, we walk around here as if we have the key to life or something. When we walk around and think, oh, well, yeah, I'll talk about insurance later, or I'll get it next week and I'll wait till I can afford it. You always can afford it. It's just on what you prioritize that you can afford.
Right.
If you can afford every habit you have in the book, you can afford to go out, you can afford the weaves, the shoes, the purses, all of the things that will not replace your income for your spouse or your children. You have it. But it's a mindset, and it's going to be a road to get there. But I think COVID really opened the door for understanding of the importance of it.
Oh, yes.
There was never really that demand of education in what you're doing. And now that people are flocking to get this coverage now because they're understanding and they're seeing this debt thing in their families in numbers, not just once every other year. You're getting 5 or 6 in a year, right? It's happening in numbers. So now everybody's flocking to get something. But the problem is, are you educating yourself on what you're getting?
Yeah.
Sounds good. And so what we do over in Primerica, also, we're independent agents. A lot of people, we work we work for, no, we don't work for Primerica, we work with Primerica.
Okay.
So we are not employees of Primerica. We're independent agents of the state, and we choose to place our license with the number one insurance company in North America.
Right.
So what we do is we choose to educate ourselves on all entities of insurance. You know, no company is unnamed, reliable, State Farm. We study these insurance policies. We study the black and white. We study the fine print of these policies. And what we do with our client, because everybody's not walking around with no insurance. It's just, you know, we see one or three people. Either you ain't got no insurance, you only got it on a job, or you got bad insurance.
Right.
So either way, it needs to be addressed.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
as we start studying and we educate ourselves, we're able to sit down with our clients. For the ones that already believe in the insurance, they just are invested in the wrong thing. And it's the sooner we can show them in black and white what they signed off on, the sooner they can get to setting their family up for the right. Because we don't never take it, you don't never let our clients take nothing we say for face value. What we do is we educate them on the language that's in their policy that they probably didn't understand because they didn't go take a state test. Right. And then we send them back to the agent that sold it to them to ask them the question. When you can't make a Primerica agent a liar, well, what logical reason do you make another payment into that policy? And what logical reason would you not try to figure out how to get your family in the best thing possible?
Absolutely.
So we, you know, that's why, you know, the whole thing is, where did Primerica come from? Where did they just, I don't know where, because when you know better, you do better. And that's what we're out here in the community, showing them the education piece of it. We're not here to sell you we're here to educate you and let you make an educated decision. Because when you pass away, unfortunately, that's not our bill. So, you know, but what's problem is our people aren't given that fair chance to get that education to make that proper decision. So that's what we do here at Primerica. We just give you the whole education and try to let you make your own educated decision with everything we put out there, all the facts, all of the, you can Google Jesus to get the wrong thing. So
right.
We make sure, you know where you're going for your information and things of that nature, so that people, this is not a joke.
No.
Again, families are dying. And again, we don't know our death date, and tomorrow people are waking up and devastated.
They really are. It's so sad. So I guess I want to know, what type of questions, should we ask when we're exploring that? Because we don't know. I just was asked about insurance recently, and I was like, I didn't know anybody. And it's like, deja vu, Primerica. And so, of course, I can always suggest that. But even I don't really know the questions to really ask. And if you don't get a genuine person like yourself, you still could be in that same situation, even when you genuinely are trying to do the right thing.
So first thing we want to do is we try to sit down with clients and we look at their life in a concept called the dime. It's an acronym called the dime. No, it's not the 10-cent coin we've always known, right? It's literally a acronym that breaks down who you are to the people that depend on your money. So we work with the client first to find out who they are. What are you worth to your family? What, to see, because we have to look at the D and dime. That's for your death. Of course, you got to have money. Average right now is $10,000 to $15,000 for a funeral, right? So we make sure that at minimum, you got $15,000 in place. Well, then the other side of that D is your debt. Because when you pass away, your debt don't die with you. It actually passes to your spouse and sometimes to your children. So, you think about it, you might have a brand new Lexus in your driveway. You pass away, the car place is not, they're not sentimental to your family, but all they want to know is who's going to pay this car off. And in 3 months down the line, sorry for your loss, but we need our car if we haven't specifically shown you how to cover your debt in your policy, right? We call it income protection. We're trying to show you how to protect everything that's comes connected to your income for your family, minimum 5 to 10 years. So when you transition, they transition with a financial understanding of, hey, I'm set up comfortably for this amount of time until I can do X, Y, Z. And maybe sometimes you're in a position to make it forever, but just for, a certain amount of time. Well, then we look at the I part of the dime, and that's the income. That's the most important part of the dime, because you have to think of family homes, and we're going to just look on just the lower end. Average household, 2-family household, brings in about $4,000, $2,000 a piece, right? If they have a child, just one child, and one person passes away in that household, now that household is only bringing in $2,000 with the same bills and lifestyle that was set in place. So what we do is we sit down and we tell them, hey, let's look at how much you bring in times a year. That's about $24,000 with $2,000 a month. And we look at keeping that coming into the household about 10 years. That's $240,000 at minimum just to replace your income that that you should have in place. I saw that face. I saw that facial expression, right? Go ahead. So if you're thinking about it right now, it's like, hey, a lot of us can't even afford to die right now if we don't even know that.
Right, exactly.
So then we go down to the M of the dime, and that's your mortgage. A lot of people are dying, and the average people that are dying are leaving a mortgage bill of $100,000 or more, average. But then some people don't have a home, and it costs more to rent than it is to buy. So either way, you still have to have funds in place to keep the roof over your spouse head, or your whoever it is that depends on your money. So we tell you whatever you have left on your mortgage or whatever you have allotted for housing expenses, to put that in that income protection field. And then the last part of the dime is the E, your children's education. Because whether you have young children or children that are finna graduate, if you leave here, you're still financially responsible for those children. And if you pass away before they turn around and get to their education, their college years, or even want to be an entrepreneur, because nowadays kids aren't going to college. But would you want the best or the worst for your child? You'd want the best. So looking at just a minor university right now, room, book, and board, that's $60,000 a child a year. So we add that into your, so we just looking at minimum, average family bringing in $4,000, one child, that all of that adds up to about $450,000 in cover. That if that family doesn't have that in place, somebody can't afford to die right now. So with that being said, you have to look at it with that aspect. Those are the conversations. And then you want to look at what protects your investment when you make such an investment like that. You want to look for guaranteed insurability. Not guaranteed insurability is meaning, hey, I'm entering into this situation at 30, 35 years old at this type of health. In 20 years, 30 years down the line, when I want to renew insurance, I'm 70, I'm 60, I'm getting close to, the mortality rate.
Right.
How do they look at it? Well, Primerica, we treat you as if you are the same age as you signed that policy the first time.
Right.
No matter what happens, you can lose a limb. COVID's cousin can come back in and come in, and anything can happen. They treat you as if your health was the same as the date of the application was put in. Our policies are only based off age when it's time for renewal. So you never have to worry about losing your investment based off what happened to your health over those years.
Right.
Where other companies, they have it worked into the fine print. And I mean, the majority of other companies have it worked into the fine print, where every year they pull your medical. They want to see what's going on with you, because insurance is an exchange of risk. And when you become a risk, they decide whether they want to take on that risk or not anymore.
Right.
You're paying into a policy 10, 15 years, and then you come down with an illness, use cancer as an example, and they pull your annual and say, oh gosh, you've been in chemo all year. Do we want to take this risk on? I don't think so. The insurance company now holds the position where your entire investment is done for 15, 20 years, because they no longer want to take on that risk.
Wow. So they dropped in all the money that you've invested into that insurance is gone.
Which is why it's important to understand the fine print of your policy. You got to understand, what rights do you have to your own investment? What rights do they have the upper hand, or do you have the upper hand? In Primerica, you have the upper hand. We don't care what's going to happen to your health. Other companies, they need something to go wrong with your health. They need something to go wrong, because now they just gained all that premium for 10, 15 years. And now they need you to go find somebody that's going to carry you with that risk, because they no longer want to take that on. But thank you for the 15 years of premium payment.
Right.
Insurance is $1 trillion industry, guys. They don't get that way by making bad investments. They get that way by making good investments. And they have to protect their investments. And that's by the fine print in them policies.
Like, this is super educational, because I know that what you said, to be real, I guess it's probably been 10 years now. And my Mima, her husband, died. And it's not funny, but it's funny. And she was like, she was of course hurt when she lost her husband. And she was like, Carl, you have nothing to do with all these bitch. I never, until then, because we helped with calling in for policies and stuff to figure out what was up with that, and to find out that it didn't include some of the essentials, and that it only covered care of the procedures. It didn't care, it didn't take care of any of those other things. it's so sad. And I was kind of upset because I felt that when things change with trends or anything like that, your agent should say, hey, we need to revisit your policy. I mean, it just seems like the right thing to do. You have this pipeline of customers and you don't care enough about them to be like, you may want to consider doing X, Y, and Z. Even if they don't go for it, you've done your part by at least educating them to say you don't really have the best policy, and things like that. It's just really sad for that.
Well, the downside to that is that most companies don't educate their employees on other people's insurance on purpose. So if you're speaking to a guy, a State Farm agent, a State Farm agent is never going to try to sell you a reliable policy or a Primerica policy. State Farm cuts their check. They don't. State Farm cuts their check. They have no business telling you anything else that is going to be better for you.
Absolutely.
No business. So State Farm focuses on, and all these different, not just State Farm, because I don't want to call that as, an individual company, but these companies focus on educating agents on their product, that the knowledge of their product. And that's where it goes wrong. And that's why a lot of companies are losing to Primerica agents, because we're here to educate you. We're here for you to have an understanding and for us to change the narrative in the Black community. And if we are here to really help you understand something, to help your family, help change your family's last name. You don't have to be rich, but when you die, your family can be rich. It's, we trying to teach these concepts in the community now with that end.
Right.
So that's the most important part. Cause like you said, your mama, I promise you, her thought process was paying for insurance, maybe it pays some of these bills when he passed away or, but they just didn't understand that fine print.
Yes.
Was hurting.
I guess even for me, until I became a little bit more educated, I just assumed that with the policy, okay, it's 50,000, it's 60,000. You just supposed to take care of whatever, whatever's out there with that. That was my perception.
But that's what they teach us in our community. In the other communities, they sit down with the husband and the wife and they look at the husband like, how do you feel about your wife not being able to afford things if you pass away? Don't you want your paycheck to keep coming up?
Right.
Your children, these are the different conversations. They're only convincing us to just get enough to bury us. Nobody cares that you only have 3 days of bereavement in your work package to return back to work, no matter what.
Right.
So how many people are going straight back to work? Some people don't ever return back to work, but they bills still keep going. Life still keeps lifing. Children still running around here. But again, if the conversation was reversed and they sat down and said, hey, set yourself up this way and make sure that paycheck still comes in the home, 10 years. It's not that, but we're changing with the times and the things that are happening, but not on the education side. So we got all these stay-at-home wives, stay-at-home moms, so some stay-at-home dads. It's real cute. But what happens when the breadwinner don't make it home? What happens when the breadwinner don't even wake up? What do you have in place? Because you have nothing. You're a stay-at-home. So if we look at it as what's glorified on one end, what is the back end? What is the back end story of that real fairy tale that we're looking at?
Right. We just got to empower ourselves to just know more and set ourselves up for success, because I know that mentality is not segregated, to just me. I know thousands and thousands. But it
is segregated to our community. That is fact. That is segregated. And we as a people, we can just look at each other and know that we are just oblivious sometimes to taking in education information from our people, what it is. But if the next person says it, then they'll do it, right? So it's just, if we just get better as a people, understand it. And even if we don't even listen to each other, we learn the art of how to do our own research. Stop letting people tell us okay, well, that's your experience, or that was your process, or, let me go see, what really is about this situation, or what is the credentials on this company? Do people even really know how to look up the credentials of companies? Just making it, what's the average? If you think about it, when we go to do things, we think of the first 3 companies that come in our head that we probably seen on a commercial every 10 minutes. We're going to make those 3 calls, go with the best price, whether it's car insurance, home insurance, life insurance. We're going to go with the best price and we're going to keep moving. That's just the reality of how we move out here. But if we stop and we do our due diligence and we look, you'll go look up the Better Business Bureau. You'll see you that State Farm isn't even accredited by the Better Business Bureau, never has been.
Wow, I didn't know that.
You go look up go look up any company. I challenge you. Reliable. What's that? PHP. Like you name it. Go look up their Better Business Bureau rating and see, are they accredited? That means the Better Business Bureau backs you when you're accredited. You never had any accreditation. What does that look like? Primerica's been in business for 45 years. We've been accredited for 43 of those 45 years.
What makes a difference?
With an A+ rating. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if you go when you learn how to do your due diligence and research things, you'll stop going with the conditioning of times, and we will stop being on the other end of the, I didn't know that.
Right.
Because again, we have a problem with listening to each other. So that's fine. Just don't have a problem with going to do your own due diligence for yourself, because you lose by not just want to listen to that person. Go do your due diligence. Go look up people, like we said, the Forbes list. If you can't raise your hand to get on that and they come find you, well, if you go look up the Forbes list and you go look up these companies that you got in the wind, you're looking at 3-4 companies. Well, which one of them are being rated on the Forbes list? Which one of them are publicly traded? Which one of them actually dictate how that dial moves in the economy?
Right.
You see, so we don't look up those things. We go off what grandma said, the family agent, and I heard. Right. That's our way of making decisions, and we show that on the financial end.
And that's why we're always, the last person on that, that poll, because we just don't, we follow that negative, anything that's positive, especially if it's presented by our people, we're already questioning it right off the bat. And that's so upsetting, because someone else from another culture can come in and say the exact thing, and they might not even tell you everything. You're going to jump on board with them. No questions asked, no research needed. Come into contact with you and, everything you say. So I'm like, we've got to get, past that. And most importantly, to do the research. I do know that a lot more of us are starting to pay attention to reviews, and, slowly but surely, that there is a difference in that trend. And I just really hope that, it grows more, but it's just so much different. Like the newer grannies are different than, when I was raised, because they honestly just didn't, they didn't know. But I just hope that we can, get that communicated to our youth, because people are really expiring much earlier than they ever did. We're not seeing 1,000 people dying at 100 anymore, 110, 120.
They're not even making it to their teenage years at this point. Again, it's children out here passing away, and we don't even have our kids insured.
No, and our alternative has become, like you said, the funding. I mean, it's really turned into an actual platform. And you can't afford to do it, go to GoFundMe.
We're going broke burying people that's walking around wearing Balenciaga and got Louis Vuitton purses by the dozens. I just don't understand it. But that's a lack of education, and sometimes it's just a lack of wanting to have the education, not just getting, having it. They just don't want it. And it's because it's from us. Right now, we have a problem in the Black community happening where they're reconditioning us with our younger people. So they're pushing this new thing called the Index Universal Life Policy, the IUL, the new thing called Be Your Own Bank, the new version of the whole life policy that they were selling our ancestors. So now they're getting the younger generation set up. Oh my God, I could be my own bank. I can, when you get them in there, it's like, oh gosh, I got them. And so, our new generation, they don't even listen to us. They don't want to listen to nobody. So if the government gets a hold of them, which is what they're doing with social media platforms and stuff, it's beyond family generational pass downs. The social media is running our lives now. And this younger generation is moving off what they hear and what's conditioning. And so right now they're pushing that. Here's the thing. How can you be your own bank? Who funds a bank? We fund the bank, right? We as a people fund the bank. The bank don't fund itself.
Exactly.
So how do you become your own bank if you're the only person that pay your premium? Company don't pay it. 10 other people don't put in $10 on it.
Nope.
It's a reverse psychology with the same thing. So it's what they say and how it's said, and it sounds good, and nobody stops and says, well, wait a minute, how does a bank get funded? By the people. Well, I ain't the people, I'm a person.
Right.
Come on now. You can borrow this, you can get all this money tax-free. The only thing that's tax-free out here is nonprofit things. That means you're not going to make a profit, because you make a profit on anything in this market, you're going you're gonna pay tax. So yes, tax free because they don't plan on you making a profit. Think about it.
Yes.
It's so much that's in the language that's used to pull us in, that the language that they're using to pull us in, if we just stop and dissect it, you're like, hold on, wait a second. So it's a thing where, again, our younger generation. So what our range right now, what we're looking for to actually catch and flip this is the ages between 25 and 45. 25 and 45 is at an age frame where they're open-minded, they've seen enough, and they're the gateway to changing that next generation. They're producing the 20-year-olds and the 25-year-olds, and then those 25-year-olds are producing that next generation. If we can catch that area right there, it will start to turn over a new leaf. And what we see as poverty in our communities, people will start learning how to change their family's last name. So unfortunately, like I said, our grandparents and great parents, they run the family. They literally are the gatekeepers of the tradition. But, we don't have to. I tell people all the time, you ain't got to be disrespectful to grandma to not do what grandma said. You can know better and do better. And
exactly.
So it's just one of those things where we have to get out of that comfort zone of upsetting people when what's more important, the family that you created or the family you came from.
Right. It's that value proposition. We actually have to understand the value, because when you were saying, a lot of times, we're wearing this and we're wearing that, and we don't have a problem with that. But when something really happens, when have you been able to pawn your clothes, no matter how much they worth?
Oh, and the thing of it is, it's really selfish. It is the most selfish thing you can do to walk around here as a walking advertisement for any of these brands, and you pass away and people are literally going into debt to bury you. They didn't participate in the the lavish lifestyle you lived on this earth. They didn't get that. You have single family homes, you have grandparents, and you have all of these different people that are attached to you as you live this lifestyle, that when you don't wake up tomorrow, their life changes financially also. But your life was just fine financially while you was here.
Right.
You just didn't prioritize it and make sure that nobody went into debt after you passed away. So again, it's you're never going to be able to get them all. It's just not going to happen. But what it does is sometimes it's that few or that one in that range, that 25 to 45-year-old range, that once they get it, it ain't rocket science. And they become the gateway to the family and the information.
Yes. That's definitely, become that, because word of mouth is definitely our best advocate. And because so many of us have lost others at a premature stage, I don't think it would have had such an impact if more of us have lost, our elders, the seniors and things like that. But to know that, we're losing 3-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 20-year-olds and things like that. And to be able to recover, bury them and all of those things, people are spreading the word. They're saying, like, if you don't have no insurance,
and said, check those work packages. Check those work packages. You got 3 days of bereavement. They don't care who you lost, child, spouse, grandma, but they don't care who you lost. You got 3 days of bereavement to get back to the plantation and produce for them. That's it, and that's all.
That's all. I think they took the 7 days away, because when I first started working, at least if they were out of town, you got a few more days, but you could be gone that time. They're just not going to pay for it.
You can take all the time you want. You only get 3. Let me correct that. You get 3 paid days of bereavement.
Yes.
And so here's the catch. The reality is, after you lose a child, are you really going back to work in 3 days? Mm-hmm. But your bills keep going. Life's still lifing. You probably have other children that still depend on you. And if you didn't have someone to sit down with you and talk to you about the proper insurance and properly how to insure your family, then you're probably going to go into debt just from losing a child. You probably could have buried them. You probably could have did all that. You could probably had insurance on them, but not the proper insurance that was going to put you in a position to pay your bills, to properly grieve, to properly be able to acclimate yourself back into living life without a baby or without your spouse or whatever it is that you lost. These are the conversations that we need to have.
Yes.
And they said the fine print is getting us. It's getting us.
Oh, yes.
People that are getting insurance today and die tomorrow, and the insurance company ain't got nothing for you.
No.
Because you signed off on it and you didn't know that you had to have that insurance in place for 2 years and 1 day. That 1 day is getting folks. That's That's crazy. When you don't know when you're going to pass away, then you have people accidental insurance. Like it's so much that our people need to be educated on, because it just all sounds good. And the cheaper it is, and we already know you get what you pay for.
Yes.
You're out here paying $12 for $1 million. The reality is, hey,
what am I paying for real? I mean, it's with so much.
I simply ask this question, and it's a serious question, and it's usually a bunch of people that I ask it to, never just one person. But I'm gonna ask you: do you know anybody in your family that has passed away and left $100,000 or better to their family?
Unfortunately, not.
Now, next question. How many people do you know that's passed away with the job?
That passed away with the job. The people that passed away, did they have a job anymore?
Well, they passed away. They was working a job when they passed away, right? Well, here's the thing. The average job policy ranges from $25,000 to $1 million. So think about it. Why is it that all these people are passing away and they spouses not leveling up? It's the reason is because they don't understand that they're the insured person on the job. They don't have insurance on the job. The job has insurance on you.
Yes.
That's why.
Now, I did learn that, and I only learned that because one of my managers had ended up, her husband had passed, and she didn't understand, she expected some other things because they had just relocated to California, new home. I mean, just anything you could think of had occurred in that household prior to him passing. And that's when we found out, that the insurance that we had at work, that it didn't cover some things, but it would cover some things had we had those conversations, because they just tell you it's open enrollment, or if you just start the job, sign up for your paperwork. And even with the disability and the FMLA, there, things with that have changed, because now since
they trying to get rid of that now. They trying to get rid of that.
Yeah, they are trying to get rid of it. And they've even phased out, of course, now that we've learned about it, the mental leave. Now you have to be very specific and careful when you communicate why you need to leave, because now if you say it's work related, you got to be specific that, whether it's work related or the mental thing is, dealing with you, because if you use anything that work had anything intertwined with that, you're declined.
Yeah, you go. They want no liability.
None.
No liability attached to it. And again, like I said, we sit down with these clients and we see 1 or 3 people. Either you ain't got it, you only got it on the job, or you got the wrong type of insurance and you don't understand the fine print. So this is what we do at Primerica. We literally sit down and we educate you on what it is. You walk away knowing what you got yourself into, knowing what's going on, and in the position to you now have to make an educated decision for your family.
Yes, that's very powerful. I'd like to ask you, what would you, and I know we discussed being educated and all of that, but to our youth that are not within that 25 to 45, because they are having children pretty young, and the mothers of today are more responsible than I've kind of seen in a lot of years. What would you recommend to our youth, our younger generation?
As far as insurance?
To be prepared. Yeah, insurance. Yeah, definitely insurance. All avenues of insurance, actually.
I recommend that once you're at the age of 18 years old as an adult, that you insure yourself, and with term insurance, and with the knowledge of wanting to go into learning how to invest at an early age, long before you start, if you can, before you start into that family making process, because it will make life so much easier. Again, they're not teaching our young folks in school that they're not teaching them about compound interest. They're not teaching them about, the price of a dollar change in over the years. They're not teaching them that. They're actually just setting them up and conditioning them to be good employees when they get out of school. So that said, that financial aspect, I would just recommend having herself in term insurance, and also looking at different investment portfolios such as mutual funds, things that will protect their principal and things that will actually perform for them. So that would be my advice to a younger version, because I'm gonna be 40 this summer. Unfortunately, I wish someone had told me this information before 37. That's when I got it. So,
right.
So at that age, if they're coming across people that are trying to actually show them the right thing and tell them, hey, do this with your money, and one day your money will save you. This is what we weren't taught and what our parents weren't taught and all of our grandparents. That would be my advice. Start listening to people that actually can help you with money, people that know about money.
Right. That's some great advice.
So we listen to our grandparents, like you said, the value is the respect, but they might know how to make money, but they don't know how money works. Listen to people that know how money works, not to make money.
Yes, yes. Because we can make the money, but if we don't know how to use it properly, we just got some money.
And like you said, to target into this new generation, they are what we need to flip everything. We need them to get it, to flip the narrative of the Black community and the financial poverty issues. We've got, once we get that aspect, it'll be great. And it actually starts with the parents. That's our 40 to 45-year-old range, for, them to say, hey, let me show you what I didn't know.
Right.
It's okay that I didn't know. It's okay that I'm this old and I just didn't get it. But now I know. Let me make sure you don't make the same mistakes I made. Let me make sure that just because I didn't produce a rich family, you can change our last name. We have to be able to step out our own way and accept our own faults of not understanding or not putting ourselves in a position to understand and learn, and open that platform to make sure our next generation is better than us. That's where we get out our own way and make sure they're better than us.
Absolutely. Yes, I totally agree. And I really hope that our listeners, they take this very seriously, because we want to be prepared, and especially our Black community, because it's really disappointing for us not to be in the place that we need to be. You can't even grieve properly because the financial aspect is overwhelming. So I'm really hoping that, that at least one or two people have a takeaway and consider the importance and spread the word. Are you licensed? I wanted to ask, are you licensed just in St. Louis? What does that look like, seeing that our show, they can hear us all over? How does that work?
I'm actually licensed in multiple states.
Okay.
So I'm licensed in states like Ohio, Virginia, Texas, Michigan. I add states on as I go through this business, as I gain clients or find family members in those states. We don't have to take a test a million times. We take it one time. And
that's amazing.
Yeah, we take it one time, and then we purchase non-residential licenses in other states.
Okay, great.
And so we are able to work with everyone in all 50 states from the comfort of our own home.
See, all right, guys. So there is no limitation but the limitation that you put on yourself.
Absolutely. Primerica is offered in all 50 states. And, what goes with one insurance company and their ratings and everything that is attached to the company, not the state it sits in. So look at the company as a whole, and then you.
Well, definitely. Primerica is an amazing company, and I definitely will be having some conversations with you, because as we speak, we're trying to explore the policies that we currently have in place. My daughter actually was tasked to that, and she doesn't feel it's the best value. So I know that we will be getting back with you to educate ourselves, because I really don't even know what's in those policies actually. So
I'm glad you brought that up at the last second, because that is one thing I do want to make a statement of. If people are sitting out here with multiple policies, that is the first mistake. You're paying multiple fees and all of these things, where you should have your investment wrapped up in one policy that is going to pay out no matter what, no matter how you die, all of the different above, not accidental, all of these different things that are the fine print that is going to take away that bold print that sold it to you. So if you are people that's sitting out there with multiple policies thinking you're in a secure situation, you need to speak with someone that is going to give you proper information. It doesn't even have to be, so much a Primerica agent. Of course, I recommend that, but someone that will give you the real, because we should not be sitting out here with multiple policies. We should not be paying all of these different fees. You should be paying one fee for one thing that's going to pay your family no matter what, the right way.
Absolutely. Well, I know I'm on board, and I don't have to be sold for it. I just know that investing in self is really important. And for me, my daughter is grown. However, I definitely want to leave her something behind, not just, some ashes or, some leftovers,
Absolutely.
So other than that, I'm going to make sure that your information is shared in the description, but is there any information that you would like to share now prior to the episode concluding?
So you can reach me at Char Parker on Facebook, and you can also call my direct line. I'm 24/7, Life and death is 24/7. You can call my number 24 hours a day at 314-391-3360. You can send a text message. You can call with any questions, anything, all quotes and conversations and lookovers. It's all free. We're here to educate you. It's not a charge. It's none of that. It's all free. So if you have any questions, again, 314-391-3360. And I'm welcome to anyone calling me.
Awesome. Well, you heard it first, Charmaine, and we definitely want to support. This is going to conclude the episode of Rep Your Brand with Charmaine with Primerica. It's not over until it's over. So please make sure, if you want to invest in yourself and your family, or if you just want to refer someone else that is ready to do it, let's share. Support equals support, and keep it jazzy, y'all.